The desperate deal. The rain never stopped on old Earth anymore. It poured down through the cracked roofs of the slums. Turning every alley into a stream of mud and rust, Elliot sat under a broken shelter, staring at the flickering hologram that repeated the same message over and over. Intergalactic marriage program, secure citizenship. Housing and food rations apply now. It sounded almost like a joke. But for a man who had nothing left, even a joke was worth believing in. He had lost his family in the economic collapse. Factories had closed, cities had fallen apart, and now he lived day to day fixing old machines for scraps of food. The galaxy had moved on. Humans had become cheap labor for alien empires. But Elliot refused to die forgotten. So when the recruiter came to his district, a sleek, machine-eyed man in a silver uniform, Elliot signed the contract without hesitation. "You'll be matched with a compatible partner," the recruiter said, smiling coldly. Compatibility is defined by economic and biological need, not appearance. Elliot didn't care. He asked only one question. "Will I get a roof?" The recruiter nodded. "You'll get more than that." Days later, he boarded a transport ship full of desperate humans like him, their faces pale and thin. Some laughed nervously, others cried quietly. Above them, holographic screens showed images of alien brides and grooms from dozens of worlds. Tall, scaled, feathered, glowing, it felt unreal. The ship jumped through hyperspace, and when it stopped, Elliot stepped out into a world that stole his breath. The planet Thorne was a world of giants. Gravity pressed on his body like a heavy blanket. Mountains pierced the clouds, and the air shimmered with electric storms. The marriage hall stood in the middle of a glowing city, made of black crystal and humming with alien energy. Hundreds of couples waited to meet. Humans looked like children next to their alien partners. Some aliens laughed, others looked disgusted. When Elliot's name was called, he stepped forward and saw her. His heart almost stopped. She was massive. Nearly 3 times his height, skin like pale metal, eyes like molten gold, hair falling in silver waves down her armored back. Her presence filled the hall. People whispered her name. Lyra, a warrior of the Thorne, once a commander, now forced into the marriage program for reasons no one dared mention. She looked down at Elliot, her shadow swallowing him whole. He expected anger, maybe mockery, but instead, she knelt slowly, lowering herself until her golden eyes met his. "You are smaller than I imagined," she said softly, her voice like distant thunder. Elliot forced a smile. "You're larger than I expected." A few aliens chuckled. Some humans stared in pity. But Lyra didn't laugh. She extended her hand. Her fingers could crush him easily, and said, "Do you accept this bond?" Elliot hesitated for only a moment, then placed his trembling hand on hers. "I do," he said. The hall lights flared. The contract sealed. That night, they traveled to her home in the mountains. Her stride shook the ground while Elliot rode beside her on a floating platform. The house was carved into stone cliffs, its walls lined with glowing veins of energy. Everything felt too big. Chairs, doors, even the bed. Lyra noticed his unease. "You may adjust your chamber," she said gently. "I will not command your space," Elliot nodded. Unsure how to respond, she disappeared into another room. The sound of metal plates falling echoed through the walls. Curiosity pulled him closer. He peeked through the half-open door and froze. Lyra was sitting on the floor. Removing pieces of her armor, beneath it were scars, long, deep marks that crossed her back and shoulders like burns. They looked fresh, painful. She touched one and winced, then saw him standing there, her eyes hardened. "Do not look at me," she said sharply. But her voice trembled. "I'm sorry," Elliot whispered. "I didn't mean—" "You should sleep," she interrupted, turning away. "You'll need your strength to survive here." That night, Elliot lay awake, listening to the hum of alien machines outside. The gravity made his chest heavy, his mind heavier. He thought about his decision. Had he traded freedom for survival? Or was there something more behind her coldness? When he closed his eyes, he remembered the moment she took his hand and said he was safe. And for a brief second, he had believed her. Morning came with a violet sunrise that painted the stone cliffs. Elliot stepped outside and saw Lyra standing at the edge of the terrace, her hair glowing in the light. She wasn't wearing her armor, just a simple dark robe that made her look almost human. She didn't turn, but she said quietly, "You regret it already, don't you?" Elliot shook his head. "No," he said. "I just don't understand why someone like you would be here." She turned. her eyes tired but kind. "Because even giants can fall," she said. And for the first time he saw something in her that no one else had. Not power, not pride, but sorrow. As the alien wind roared across the mountains, Elliot realized this marriage wasn't just his escape from poverty. It was the beginning of something far deeper, something dangerous, something that would soon shake the stars themselves, the giant's secret pain. The days passed slowly on the mountain world of Thorne. Each morning began with the sound of thunder rolling over the cliffs. Lyra trained outside before sunrise, her huge figure moving through the mist with the precision of a soldier. Her every movement made the air tremble. Elliot watched from the doorway, his small frame wrapped in a blanket. Still trying to breathe under the planet's heavy gravity, she trained in silence, always alone, her eyes fixed on the horizon as if waiting for something. Elliot wanted to ask why, but every time he tried to speak, she walked away. Her armor hung unused by the wall, but the scars on her back told him she didn't need armor anymore. The pain had already built one inside her. The townspeople treated Elliot like a curiosity. Whenever he went to the market, aliens whispered and laughed. The human pet, they said. Some even dropped coins near him like he was a beggar. He ignored them, but each word cut deep. Still, every evening when he returned, Lyra waited by the fire. Sometimes she offered him food, a strange glowing fruit that pulsed with heat, sometimes just silence. One night, when the wind screamed through the mountains, Elliot finally spoke. "Why did you join this program?" he asked quietly, staring into the fire. Lyra's golden eyes reflected the flames. For a long moment she said nothing. Then her deep voice broke the silence. "I didn't choose," she said. "I was ordered." Elliot looked at her in confusion. "Ordered? By who?" "The Council," she said, her jaw tightening. "I was once a commander of the Thorne fleet. I led warriors in the Outer Wars. We were told humans were invaders, that they spread like a plague through the stars. We were told to destroy every colony you built." Elliot's chest tightened. "You fought against us," he whispered. Lyra nodded. "Until one day, we found a colony that didn't fight back. Children, elders, unarmed settlers. My soldiers waited for my order, but I couldn't." She looked away, her voice breaking for the first time. "I refused. I was branded a traitor, stripped of rank, and cast out." Elliot didn't know what to say. His mind spun. He wanted to hate her, but something in her eyes stopped him. "That kind of pain couldn't be faked," he finally asked. "And your scars?" She hesitated, her voice low. "The Council's gift. They called it redemption testing," she said. "They cut away my honor until I begged to be nothing." Silence filled the room. Only the fire crackled between them. Elliot clenched his fists, anger boiling where fear used to live. "That's not redemption," he said softly. "That's cruelty." Lyra looked at him, surprised by his defiance, then smiled faintly. "You humans are strange," she said. "So small, yet you speak as if you carry the weight of stars." Elliot smiled back. "Maybe because we always have to fight for everything." That night, she told him about her people, the Thorne, a proud race of warriors bred for strength and obedience. But their empire was decaying, ruled by fear and silence. She said her exile was not just punishment. It was a message: disobey, and you'll become less than nothing. As the fire dimmed, Elliot noticed something else, a faint hum coming from beneath the floor. He knelt and touched the ground. It vibrated softly. "What's that sound?" he asked. Lyra froze, her face suddenly tense. "Nothing," she said too quickly. "Just the wind in the tunnels." But Elliot wasn't convinced. Later that night when she slept, he followed the sound through a narrow corridor behind the storage room. The walls glowed faintly with blue veins, leading him to a sealed door made of dark alloy. Strange runes pulsed faintly across it. He placed his hand on the surface, and it responded. Glowing brighter, the hum grew louder. "Elliot!" Lyra's voice thundered behind him. He turned, startled. She stood in the doorway, her expression fierce. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "What is this place?" he demanded. "What are you hiding?" She stepped closer, towering over him, but her anger wasn't pure, it was fear. Her voice cracked. "If they find out, they'll kill us both." "Who?" he asked again, his voice trembling. "The Council," she whispered, "and those who serve them." Her hand pressed against the door. The glow faded. The hum went silent. She looked at him for a long time before saying, "I didn't marry you for pity, Elliot. I married you because you were the only one they would never suspect." He blinked in confusion. "Suspect of what?" Of what I kept alive, she said, her tone dark and heavy. That night, Elliot couldn't sleep. He stared at the alien stars outside, bright and cold. The woman he had married to escape poverty was hiding something far greater than her scars. Something that could get them both killed. And yet, for the first time in years, he didn't feel like a victim of fate. He felt part of something larger. Something alive, dangerous, and waiting to be uncovered. When dawn came, he saw Lyra standing in the courtyard, the rising sun casting gold over her silver hair. She wasn't training this time, just standing still, watching the horizon, her eyes distant. Elliot joined her, his voice soft. "Whatever you're hiding, I'll help you keep it safe." Lyra turned slowly, surprise flickering in her eyes. "You don't even know what it is," she said. He shrugged. "Doesn't matter, I know what it's like to lose everything." For the first time, she smiled, a real smile, small and sad. "Then maybe," she said, "we both have something worth protecting." And as the storm clouds gathered once again above the Thorne Mountains, Elliot knew one thing for certain. This marriage wasn't just survival anymore. It was the start of a secret war he didn't yet understand, but soon would. The hidden army, the storm didn't stop for 3 days. Lightning flashed across the sky, shaking the mountain house. Every strike lit the walls for a moment. Then darkness returned. Elliot sat near the fire, waiting for Lyra to speak, but she said nothing. She only stared into the flames with eyes full of memories he couldn't read. When the winds finally calmed, she rose and went outside. Her armor was gone, her steps slow, heavy, as if she carried the whole planet on her shoulders. Elliot followed quietly. She stood near the cliff's edge, watching the black clouds fade. "You're still here," she said without turning. "Most humans would have run by now." Elliot smiled faintly. "I've been running my whole life," he said. "Maybe it's time to stop." Her lips curved just a little, not quite a smile. "Then you should see what you've chosen to stand beside," she said, and motioned for him to follow. They walked down through a tunnel cut into the rock. Cold air swirled around them. Walls glowed faint blue. As if alive, the deeper they went, the louder the hum became. The same sound he had heard that night, a rhythmic pulse like a heartbeat when they reached the end. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber. Elliot stopped breathing for a moment. Rows of tall metal pods filled the darkness, each one large enough to hold a Thorne warrior. Glass panels revealed shadows of motionless forms inside, part flesh, part machine. Some looked alien, others almost human. Blue light pulsed through their veins, connecting them all like a living network. Elliot whispered, "What is this?" Lyra's golden eyes gleamed in the half-light. "This," she said, "was my command." She walked between the pods, her hand brushing against one gently. "They called us Project Sentinel," she continued. "We were created to end wars, hybrids built from Thorne and human DNA. The Council believed mixing strength with human resilience would create the perfect soldiers." Elliot's heart pounded. "Hybrids," he said. "That means—" "Yes," she cut in softly. "We were made from your people's blood." She paused, her voice bitter. "They captured human colonists for experiments, splicing their genetics into our young. They told us it was to preserve peace, but it was only to make better killers." Elliot felt sick, his hand shaking. "And you?" he asked. "You were one of them?" Lyra nodded slowly. "I was their first success, stronger than any Thorne, faster, smarter. But I saw what they did to the others and the failed ones. The children who didn't survive the merging." She looked away, her face full of pain. "So I freed them. I destroyed the labs and I ran." Elliot looked around, realizing the truth. "These pods? These are the ones you saved." "Yes," she said. "What's left of them, sleeping, waiting?" Her eyes glowed faintly. "The Council believes them dead. I hid them here for years, feeding power to keep them alive, waiting for a day I could bring them back." He stepped closer to a pod. The shape inside looked almost human, its hand pressed faintly against the glass. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked quietly. Lyra sighed. "Because your kind fears what it doesn't understand, and my kind kills what it cannot control," she said. "You were my shield, Elliot. The Council would never suspect a disgraced soldier married to a human could hide their greatest secret." Before he could respond, a sharp sound echoed through the chamber, metal scraping against metal. Lyra's head snapped up. "They found us," she hissed. Red lights flashed across the ceiling, warning tones blaring. Elliot turned. "Who?" "The Thorne patrols," she said. They've traced my signal. She ran to the control console, her massive fingers flying across glowing panels. I can't shut the system down in time. Elliot's instincts kicked in. He grabbed a power conduit and pulled it free. Sparks flew. The lights dimmed. That'll hide the energy trace, he said. Coughing through the smoke, Lyra looked at him impressed. You've done this before, she said. Old Earth factories, he replied. You learn fast when machines decide if you eat or not. The sirens stopped. Silence returned. Only the hum of the pods remained. Lyra stared at him for a moment, then placed her huge hand gently on his shoulder. You risked your life for them, she said softly. For me. Elliot looked up at her. You already risked yours for my kind, he said. Seems fair. She knelt beside him, her golden eyes warm. Maybe the council was right about one thing, she said. The strength of humanity isn't in their muscles or weapons. It's in their hearts, Elliot smiled faintly. Then maybe that's what they should fear most. Lyra's expression hardened again. They do, she said. And they're coming. She turned toward the pods, her voice low but full of resolve. It's time they wake. One by one, the pods began to glow brighter, the hum rising into a deep chorus that shook the chamber. Elliot stepped back as the figures inside started to move, their eyes opening, shining blue like stars. Lyra's scars glowed faintly under her skin as she lifted her arm toward them. My soldiers, she whispered. Our time has come. Elliot watched in awe as the first hybrid stepped from its pod, its armor fused with flesh, its face strangely human. Commander, it said, voice deep and mechanical, awaiting orders. Lyra's golden eyes blazed. Then listen, she said. The war they began is not over. But this time, we fight for truth. Elliot felt the ground tremble as the hidden army of hybrids rose from the darkness. Silent and alive, he had married a giant to escape poverty, but now he stood beside a legend, and the secret she kept was about to shake the galaxy. The uprising begins the next morning. The mountain trembled, not from thunder this time, but from the awakening of the hybrids. The air was thick with power. Blue light streaked across the cavern walls as the sleeping soldiers stepped into life one by one. Elliot stood among them, his heart pounding. He had never seen anything like it. Half human, half Thorne, they moved with silent precision, their faces calm yet full of hidden pain. Lyra stood before them, tall and steady, her silver hair flowing behind her like a banner of war. You were created to destroy, she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. But you will live to protect. Her golden eyes burned bright. The council will come for us. They will call us monsters. But they are the true monsters. The hybrids bowed their heads as one, their deep voices replying together. We stand with you, Commander. The words made Elliot's chest tighten. He could feel the weight of destiny in the air. Lyra turned to him then, her gaze softer. Elliot, I need your help, she said. You understand human systems, networks, messages. You can speak to your people in a way I cannot. He nodded slowly. You want me to send a message? Yes, she said, a message that tells the truth. About what the council has done, about the humans they captured, about us. Her tone darkened. If they know we live, they will send fleets to erase us, but if the truth spreads first, they will lose their power. Elliot looked around at the hundreds of glowing pods now open, at the silent soldiers waiting, at the woman who had once terrified him. Then we send it, he said. They worked through the night. Elliot connected old Terran transmitters to Thorne power relays. The mixture of technologies sparked violently, but it worked. The signal grew strong enough to reach orbit. Lyra recorded her words in a low, steady tone. I am Lyra of Thorne, former commander of the Sentinel Legion, she began. I speak to all world, human and Thorne alike. The council you serve has lied to you. They created me to be a weapon. They built an army of hybrids from human suffering. They murdered those who refused. And now they plan to erase the truth, but we live. And we remember. Her eyes met the camera lens, golden and fierce. We do not seek war, she said. We seek freedom. When the recording finished, Elliot sent it through every open frequency he could find. It would spread across the colonies, across the Thorne networks, through pirate channels and resistance nodes. Unstoppable once released, moments later, alarms blared. Red light filled the chamber. Lyra's hand went to her blade instantly. They've traced the signal, she said. Elliot's voice trembled. How fast? Too fast, she replied. They're already in orbit. Outside, the sky burned crimson as Thorne patrol ships descended through the clouds. Their engines roared like storms. Hybrid soldiers formed lines around the mountain, weapons glowing with blue plasma. Lyra's voice thundered through the comms. "Hold your ground, protect the civilians. No unnecessary death." Elliot ran to the control deck, watching the fleet descend. "They've deployed drones," he shouted. "Hundreds of them." Lyra looked up at the burning sky, her face calm but resolute. "Then we will show them what it means to face those they once created," she said, her voice steady. "Activate the shields." A massive energy dome burst from the mountainside, blue lightning flashing as it collided with drone fire. The battle began. Explosions echoed through the valleys. Dust and metal filled the air. Hybrids fought with impossible strength, striking down armored drones with their bare hands, their human side making them unpredictable, their Thorne side making them unstoppable. Elliot stayed inside the command center, rerouting power, shouting coordinates. His fingers flew over the panels as if born for this. One wrong move could collapse the shields. Lyra's voice came through the comms, low but strong. "Elliot, the main generator is failing. We need to reroute the energy manually." "I'm on it," he replied, running down the corridor toward the lower decks. Heat and smoke poured from the vents. He found the damaged conduit, sparks flying. He pulled the release lever with all his strength, screaming as fire burned across his arm. The generator roared back to life. The shields brightened. Above, Lyra fought through waves of drones, her sword cutting through metal like glass. Her armor glowed with power. Each strike echoed with fury and sorrow. She moved like a storm, protecting her people and the small human who had become her heart. After hours of battle, the skies grew quiet. The remaining Thorne ships retreated. The mountain shook with cheers from the hybrids. Elliot stumbled out of the control deck, coughing, covered in soot. Lyra met him halfway, her armor cracked. Her face streaked with ash, but her smile was real. "You did it," she said softly. "We did it," he corrected, breathing hard. "But they'll come again." "I know," she said. "And next time they'll bring more than drones." That night, under the shattered dome, the hybrids gathered around their leaders. Elliot stood beside Lyra as she raised her sword to the stars. "The Council has called us abominations," she said. "But from this day forward we will show them what real strength means. Not power, not fear, but unity." Elliot looked up at her. The giant woman who had once been his escape from poverty now looked like a goddess of war, her golden eyes reflecting the starlight. In that moment, he realized the galaxy would never be the same, and neither would he. The secret that changed everything. The mountain fortress stood in ruins. Smoke and blue dust filled the sky. The hybrids had survived the first assault, but the Thorne fleets were already reforming in orbit. Thousands of ships, more than any rebel world could fight. Elliot stood beside Lyra at the edge of the cliff, wind tearing through his burned clothes, his arm wrapped in bandages. "They'll be back," he said quietly. "And this time, they won't stop." Lyra's golden eyes narrowed as she stared up at the red horizon. "Then neither will we," she said, her deep voice calm but tired. She had fought for hours. Blood from her wounds still glowed faintly under her skin. Yet she didn't rest. She couldn't, not now below them. The hybrids worked in silence, repairing weapons and clearing wreckage. They didn't complain, they didn't fear. They were waiting for her next command. They were more than soldiers now, they were a family, one bound by pain and purpose. Elliot looked at her, his voice low. "You said you kept them alive all these years. How?" She hesitated, her eyes softening. "There's something you need to see," she said, and led him deep into the tunnels, past the sleeping pods and control decks, until they reached a sealed chamber lined with strange glowing symbols. The air hummed softly, filled with warmth like a living heartbeat. In the center stood a crystal pod unlike the others, small, shaped almost like an egg. Pulsing with blue and gold light, Elliot felt drawn to it. His skin tingled when he got close. "What is it?" he asked. Lyra's voice trembled for the first time. "It's what the Council feared most," she said. "The final experiment, the one they never finished." "Because I stole it," Elliot frowned. "Stole it? From who?" "From them," she whispered. "From myself." She placed her massive hand on the crystal. The light brightened, revealing a form inside, and small, fragile, neither fully human nor Thorne. "This is the seed of unity," she said. "A being born from both of us." Elliot froze. "Both of us? That's impossible." Her eyes glistened. "Not impossible, only forbidden," she said, when the Council began merging human DNA into Thorne embryos. They used samples from captured humans, but one sample came from the Terran refugee database. A man's genetic code that matched yours perfectly. Elliot's heart stopped. Mine? Yes, she said softly. Long before we met, your DNA was used to stabilize my own hybrid genome. When they created me, they used your code. Your strength, your endurance, I didn't know until I escaped. Until I found the file. She looked at him with sorrow and wonder. You were part of me before we ever spoke. Elliot's mind spun. Everything he thought he knew shattered. He had married her to escape poverty, yet somehow his very blood had built the woman now standing before him. Lyra continued. The child in this pod was built from both of us, my genes, and the remaining code they left behind from you. It is the first true balance between Thorne and human, if born. It will end the genetic war forever. Both species will share one life stream. Elliot stared at the pod, awe and fear mixing in his eyes. Then why not release it? Her face darkened. Because it's not ready. The energy required to awaken it would destroy the mountain, she said. The power core can only activate once, and when it does, it will burn everything here. Before Elliot could respond, a deep rumble shook the ground. The alarm screamed again. The sky outside glowed blood red. The Thorne fleets had returned, their ships blotting out the stars. The Council's message thundered through every channel. Commander Lyra of the Sentinels, the voice roared. Surrender your hybrids or face total annihilation. Lyra turned to Elliot. Calm, resolute. It's time, she said. They will never stop until this ends. Elliot shook his head. You can't face them alone. I won't, she said, placing his hand over the glowing pod. We will. The floor began to tremble, the core chamber lighting up. Energy coursed through the walls like rivers of fire. Lyra's body began to glow, her scars burning gold. Her voice deep and gentle. When I activate the core, it will merge my life with the pod's energy and yours. Elliot's eyes widened. No, you'll die. Her giant hand touched his face softly, almost tender. No, I'll live through you, she said. Through what we've created. Before he could stop her, she stepped into the beam of light. Energy engulfed her. The ground cracked, the pod began to open, releasing a pulse of golden fire that swept across the mountain. Ships in orbit froze mid-attack, systems shutting down. Thorne soldiers dropped their weapons as the wave of energy touched them. Every hybrid glowed with new light, their eyes turning gold, their forms stabilizing, their pain fading. The light faded slowly. Silence filled the air. Elliot opened his eyes. The mountain was gone, replaced by calm skies. The Thorne fleets drifting powerless in orbit. The hybrids kneeling quietly. Lyra was gone, only her voice lingered soft and distant. You didn't escape poverty, Elliot. You escaped the chains of fate, she whispered. You gave me hope, and now the stars will share it. Elliot looked down at the small crystal pod now resting in his arms. No longer glowing, but warm, alive. Inside, a faint heartbeat pulsed steady and strong. He smiled through tears, whispering, You're safe now. Above him, the dawn broke over the Thorne Mountains for the first time without storm. Light washing across both worlds, human and alien, united not by war, but by love, sacrifice, and a promise written in their very blood. He had married a giant to survive, but in the end, she had taught him what it meant to truly live, and together they had changed everything.